Hey guys, Chickadee Maine, aka Deboo, with a YouTube video forecast update. This forecast update effective around 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday, January 23rd, 2021. I'd like to start off by thanking longtime followers and welcoming new ones by letting you know that we are primarily a surf and marine forecaster covering the North Atlantic waters, looking for weather systems and or patterns that produce high seas and or high surf. Now, you can't have high surf without high seas, so during hurricane season, we track tropical cyclones. During winter, it's winter storms that move out into the Atlantic that can produce some amazing swells, large sea heights, sometimes in excess of 50 feet. And boy, do we've got a jam-packed board here for you today. Lots to talk about in today's update. I'm glad you're tuning in. I hope you'll stay tuned in for all of it. Going to start you off with some satellite imagery for those who don't know about the flow. Now, if you're following us on our social feeds, that's most of you, we always post still images. And you have to remind yourself that although those images are still, the atmosphere is fluid. So whenever you see me draw my lines or draw my arrows or do what I do, keep in mind that when you're looking at that still image and you're looking at those arrows, you go, oh, wait a minute, that image is still, all of this stuff is moving. So I want you to take note now. We're going to start in the center of the image up here, and I want you to notice this hook in here, because that's going to start to set up this area of low pressure that's in here to start its ramp down the coast here. And there's three significant events that are likely to take place here in the next 10 days. One of them is that, we'll get into that in a few minutes and show you that in the models, is the other one here that we see starting to spin up here. Now, this is going to be a winter storm that's going to produce snow going in to Pennsylvania, New York, blah, blah, blah. And then this one here, we just had a hurricane force low in here 48 hours ago, and now we got another one developing. We've got a winter storm coming in here, but I also want you to note, look at this lift coming out here over the Bay of Campeche and this flow here. Notice how this gets strung along. So this is a west to east flow in here. And once you get an area of low pressure to pop up in here and develop, then it's going to move off this, off this way. So you see how this flow is going like this? So we now have another hurricane force low that's getting ready to develop here in the next 48 hours or so for back-to-back hurricane force lows, because 48 hours ago, we just had the first hurricane force low. So that's back-to-back 2 hurricane force lows in here in about 5 days. And then the models are showing, or have been showing, a bomb coming off the Outer Banks. So what's going to happen here is this winter storm is going to develop. And as it moves off this way towards the northeast, another area of low pressure 48 hours after is going to pop up here. And when it does, it's going to make its beeline towards the coast. And when it gets here, it's going to explode. All right, switch you over to the latest run of the GFS. This is 18Z. It's just coming out now. And so for surfers, take a look over here in the right-hand side of the image over off the Outer Banks. You see these isobar lines in here. This is setting up some northerly winds behind that developing system out over the Atlantic. The first hurricane force low 48 hours ago, that's the swell that's showing up in the Caribbean now. And so here comes a secondary pulse setting up off the East Coast. Now, for this next storm that's getting ready to develop, pay attention right in here towards Texas. I'll advance the model for you, and you'll notice that just right over southern Texas, an area of low pressure starts to lift, almost like out of the East Pacific. And then boom, 999, and here comes winter storm. Now look, over here to the left. Remember we talked about in the satellite imagery coming out of the Gulf of Alaska? Here comes that winding down the coast there, and it stalls right in here as this winter storm fades out. But then watch here over Louisiana, or near Louisiana, as we advance the model. This is going into Wednesday and Thursday now, okay? Wednesday and Thursday, I'll back that up. Watch to the left. Watch as that winter storm fades out and new area of low pressure begins to phase here right on the backside of the Outer Banks. This is Thursday into Friday, and then the bomb explodes. This is going to set up a massive swell heading for the Caribbean, guys. Now, I don't know what the local winds are going to be. And also keep in mind, this is still 5 days out, so there's lots of time for the models to change. So don't take any one particular model run as gospel, but we're looking at trends. And right now the trend has been over the last 24 to 48 hours, it has been for a more northerly trend. The talk was 72 hours ago that the low was going to move off the southeast Georgia coast, probably south of the Outer Banks. Now it's coming in behind the OBX and kicking off. This opens up the mid-Atlantic also for a big swell. We'll just have to see how the details work out over the next 24 to 48 hours. But I'll switch you over to the Atlantic side now because this thing is deepening. That's a 957 millibar hurricane force low just east of the mid-Atlantic Friday morning, and it just keeps bombing out. I'll switch views for you here into here, and here's where the low starts to move off Thursday morning. And boom, 967 to 957, 953, down to 950, and could end up being a sub 950 hurricane force low. This is like the peak of hurricane season right now. I can't wait to see this develop in real time because it's going to be amazing to watch. Okay, switch you over to the latest run of Wave Watch 3. Wave Watch 3 just went through an upgrade. It's been offline for about 24 hours or so. It came back on overnight, and so the model is updating. Now, this is 72 hours ago, and I'll start to advance it for you, but notice that purple blob that kicks off the Outer Banks right there and then explodes. Now, that's that hurricane force low that was developing just south of Newfoundland and Nova Scotia. And then that put a solid charge of westerly swell heading the other way. But I want you to notice up in the North Atlantic, just south of the tip of Greenland, notice how that purple is? There's going to be northeast ground swell because of the next hurricane force low that's getting ready to develop in the next 24 to 48 hours. And you can see that purple expanding just south of the tip of Greenland. There's going to be northeast ground swell that's going to be coming down out of that's going to mix with the storm that's going to be developing off the Outer Banks. This is going to put the North Atlantic in a primarily northerly swell component, and there is going to be a lot of water displacement because look south of Newfoundland now, notice that other purple patch. That's westerly winds, westerly swell heading the other way. But watch as it starts to wrap up now. Gets up in there, and then look at that northeast fetch coming off the tip of Greenland. That's putting 15 to 18, maybe even some 20-second periods that will develop there. Now, this is sea height and direction. I'll show you periods here in just a minute, but this is sea height and direction. The purple hues indicate seas in excess of 25 going into 30 feet, possibly 40 feet, which, by the way, and we'll show you that here in just a minute, the latest Wave Watch 3 for sea heights for the storm developing east of the mid-Atlantic is approaching excess 50 feet. Going to be a huge swell, guys. Just huge. All right, so I switched up views on you, and then now for the really big show. Now, this is Thursday morning. Latest run of Wave Watch 3. Watch off the Outer Banks. Here comes southerly winds, westerly winds, but then here comes deepening low pressure, and that purple is indicative of seas in excess of 20 feet, building to possibly 50 feet. This is a life-threatening condition for anyone that may be on the water, and avoidance guidance or plans should be put in place. Look at that explosion. That is a rapidly intensifying hurricane force low. It is winter's version of a Category 1 hurricane and possibly higher. 950, if that thing was to crank down below sub 950, let me switch views and broaden or zoom out for you. So there it is off the Outer Banks. We'll advance the model for you a little bit more. Now look, up there towards the tip of Greenland. All right, so this is winds out of the northeast at 50, 55 knots, and this is seas 20 to 25 feet in northeast groundswell developing. We're going to switch over to periods here in just a second, but you can see, look how this opens up for the mid-Atlantic in here. Guys, you see these arrows? I don't know if you probably can't see them, but these are east-northeast arrows in here, and this is winds of at least 40 to 50 knots. Now, this is going to move off, and the winds are eventually going to die. I don't know what the local winds are, what your local winds are forecast for, but eventually this thing's going to go away, and there's going to be plenty of swell because there's going to be plenty of water moving around left over. So just because it's victory at sea to start, eventually, hopefully, it's going to clean up, and that's what we're going to be looking for. And then just keep in mind that the forecast is subject to change. A difference in location of 50 to 100 miles could mean a difference of whether or not you get surf or you don't. So if you don't get surf, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just putting the info out there for you. But this thing, look at it. This is crazy. Now, this goes all the way through Sunday, January 31st, and this is how we're getting ready to move into February. So here's the first big one that we've had all season long for winter season. And give me a second here. We're going to switch up views to periods here. All right, so this is periods in seconds. And same verse, our second verse, same as the first verse. This is going back 72 hours and the first hurricane force low. I'll advance the model and then take note of the red shade. That's periods of 15 to 18 seconds in westerly swell heading towards Ireland, Portugal, West Africa. I'll continue to advance the model. So that's the swell that got produced there after that first hurricane force low. And then so this is real time right in here. Actually, that's -6 hours. So that's what I said. If you'll look down there towards Puerto Rico, how the shade goes through there, that's the swell that they're getting today. And then that swell spreads out through the eastern Atlantic. And as we advance the model now we're into real time. And if you look south of New England in there, you'll see northerly periods, northwest periods. This is a second pulse of swell that is starting to be generated. And you can see the swell starting to expand just to the east-southeast of Newfoundland. Look at that red shade again. So that's more westerly swell heading that way. But then look, south of the tip of Greenland. Here's your first sign of northeast turnaround swell coming out of the North Atlantic. Advance the model for you, and this is the second hurricane force low now spinning up, creating northeast ground swell coming out of the North Atlantic. Watch it. See how the red hues start to come out? Now watch. You'll watch this past Newfoundland, just to the east of Newfoundland, and now it's starting to work its way into north central Atlantic. Right? You with me? And then look at that other swell that has now pushed out all the way to West Africa. Keep your eye on the Outer Banks, because here comes rapidly developing hurricane force low. Now notice the northeast ground, or the north ground swell, 15 to 18 seconds now pushing well behind Bermuda. That's swell in the water, and then when this storm system gets on top of that swell, then that's what we call is swell magnification. You already got massive amounts of water or swell heading in one direction, and now you've got another system that's going to get on top of it and amplify it. Advance the model for you some more, and you can see as the red hues start to develop east of the Outer Banks, that's when the system's undergoing rapid intensification. And then look, now we have a combination of swell coming out of the North Atlantic working with the swell coming out of the new hurricane force low that's going to develop east of the Outer Banks. That's 3 hurricane force lows back to back to back, just like we've been talking about in our feeds. Here's the latest marine forecast from 37.5 north latitude down into Cape Hatteras. Thursday night. North winds 35 to 50 knots. Seas increasing 20 to 29 feet. Switch you over to the latest marine weather discussion for the North Atlantic Ocean out of the National Weather Service Ocean Prediction Center. This was at 3 o'clock p.m. this afternoon on their update forecast discussion. A potentially powerful low pressure system could impact the offshore waters by Wednesday night through Thursday night. Gale to storm force winds now appear more likely with this system Wednesday through Thursday night, with hurricane force winds possible, especially near the Gulf Stream. All marine interests should closely monitor the latest OPC and coastal water forecasts in the coming days and begin to develop avoidance plans. Okay, I'm going to switch you back to real-time imagery here. I forgot to talk about this previously. I'll have another update tomorrow on this storm system that's going to be coming off the Outer Banks. Hopefully a little bit more detail, but I wanted to cover this because this is also important to me. So it appears that we're going to have 3 significant events over the next 10 days. We've got this winter storm that's developing now in real time. We've got a hurricane force low that's up in here to the North Atlantic, which is not really going to affect anybody but maritime interests, maybe some strong winds into southeast Canada. But there is this area of low pressure that's going to develop over California that could produce a significant mudslide event and or huge amounts of snow. I'll switch you over to the model here in just a minute, but I want you to take note of this push along the west coast here from the north to the south. You see that? That's going to get an area of low pressure to come in here and drop and pinwheel down the west coast of the United States. Watch it as it comes in here to the models. Now, this is, I'm going to take you out 10 days. Because no sense in going out 10 days. Models, yeah, you know, the first 5 days are somewhat reliable. And then as you move past day 5, you start to lose confidence. Anything past day 10 is fantasy. But watch as I advance the model for you. Now, this is that system that's in the Gulf of Alaska. And here it comes pinwheeling into the northwest U.S., but staying offshore. Look at that huge dump of snow and rain that's in Northern California there that pinwheels down through the state. Now, I bring that up because, you know, they had those wildfires or those fires set, however you want to look at it, where there was lots of acres burnt, so there's lots of barren ground. When all of that H2O hits the ground, it's possible we could be watching the news next week watching California under a bad mudslide event. So prayers to the folks out in California. I hope you don't have to go through that. But this gets back into a secondary one now. This is at day 8. And then again, look at the huge dump of snow and how thick the atmosphere is with fluid. All right, so that's all I got for you for now. Hey, guys, thanks for all of you who have donated in the past. I really appreciate it. We put a lot of time and effort into what we do, and we don't have any corporate sponsors. I don't even post on my website anymore, which I may be changing that up based on how things are going on social media, where I can get maybe a little bit more in depth on the website, whereas you're seeing single post. The only thing I can say to you, if you're following us on social feeds, because we pump out so much information, it's best to go back 4 or 5 posts and try to put them all together. That's all I got for you for now. Stay tuned for the next update.